It started on the first warm afternoon of spring in Seattle. The cherry blossoms had just begun to bloom, and the crisp air carried the scent of promise. I, Emily Carter, was about to marry a man I thought I loved, Ryan Collins. He was stable, predictable, the kind of man who reminded me of oak furniture, dependable but uninspired. What I didn't expect was that his younger brother Lucas would crash the wedding rehearsal, uninvited and unforgettable. Lucas Collins wasn't supposed to be there. He was the family's black sheep, the brother who had left for New York 10 years ago and built a life as a renowned photographer. Tattoos, long hair, a laugh that belonged in a dive bar. The moment he walked into the church, everything stilled. Not just the rehearsal, but me. "Sorry to interrupt," Lucas said with that grin that somehow apologized and defied all at once. I figured I owed my big brother some congratulations or a warning. People laughed. Ryan didn't. Lucas took one look at me and smiled. Not the polite kind, something else. A knowing smile, a dangerous one. That night I couldn't sleep. My thoughts kept circling back to Lucas. I told myself it was wedding nerves, that the flutter in my stomach wasn't about him. But then came the wedding day. Everything was perfect. The dress, the music, the guests. But when I stood at the altar, about to say "I do," my eyes wandered. Lucas stood at the back of the church, and he shook his head. Just once. Almost imperceptibly. But enough. I froze. The words caught in my throat. Ryan reached for my hand, but I pulled back slightly. Not enough for the crowd to notice, but enough for him to know something was wrong. Still, I said the words. "I do." The applause drowned out the voice in my head screaming that I'd made a mistake. The next 3 months were quiet. We moved into a suburban house outside Tacoma. Ryan worked long hours as a financial consultant. I filled the silence with coffee dates and rearranged throw pillows. But something had shifted in me. Then one afternoon, Lucas showed up. He was on the porch, leaning against the railing like he belonged there. "Thought I'd drop off your wedding gift," he said. "What is it?" I asked. He handed me a small box. Inside was a black and white photo of me, laughing, my hand on my face, hair blowing in the wind. I didn't even remember the moment. "You took this?" "Snapped it during the rehearsal dinner," he said. "You looked real, like you were finally breathing." That moment changed everything. Lucas started coming around more, dropping by with photos, with stories, with questions that made me think. He talked about art, about travel, about people, and purpose. He challenged everything I thought I wanted. Ryan didn't notice, or didn't care. He was always working. One evening, I asked Lucas why he'd come back. "To stop you from doing exactly what you did," he said, looking at me like I was both a tragedy and a choice. I should have been angry. Instead, I asked, "Why didn't you stop me?" He sighed. "Because you needed to see it for yourself." That night, I wrote a letter to Ryan, a kind, clear letter. I told him I needed more than comfort. I needed passion. I needed to rediscover who I was before I settled into someone else's version of happiness. He read it in silence. He didn't argue. He just said, "I always knew it wasn't me." I left the next morning. Lucas was waiting at the end of the driveway. We didn't kiss. We didn't even touch. He just said, "Ready to see the world?" And I said, "Only if I can take what I want with me." And what I wanted wasn't just Lucas. It was my life. Mine.